Hello and welcome to Out Here with Kids. I am your host, Nancy Weaver, and this is where we talk about all the messy and clumsy, hope nobody's watching moments that come with raising kids. Every week we talk about those struggles and what happens when they spill out into public spaces, and how ordinary people can support instead of judge. If you have ever tried to stay calm in aisle 7, this podcast is for you. Support Over Silence was founded to give ordinary people answers to the question, what do I do? It answers, what do I do when I see a public struggle? So if I see a kid on the grocery store floor throwing cereal boxes, kicking, screaming, saying no, running away from their mom, or if I see a mom who is at her wit's end, holding a baby, carrying a diaper bag, trying to get the cart back. If I see a dad who's kind of lost it with their kid on the soccer field, what happens when these moments between adults and kids, what happens when they get tense and there are other people around, and what do we do? At Support Over Silence, we have answers for that. We know the what. You know, we coach people. We give programs and provide resources on what to do, how to respond, like what the answer to that question is. But the biggest question that we should talk about is the why. You know, why, if it's just little old me, and I'm going to the grocery store on a Saturday morning because we ran out of milk. And I'm like, honey, I'll be back in a minute. I got to run down to Kroger. And I'm at the grocery store with my hat on and, my sweatpants and barely brush my teeth. And I run smack into a mom or a kid behaving in one of these ways. Like, why? Why should I do anything? So that's what I want to talk about today. The why behind the solution. I have a lot to say about this. We've done a lot of research and we've asked people, if you saw these kind of situations, would you want to do something? And most people, upwards of 80% of the people we talk to say, yeah, of course I'd want to do something. And then you ask them like, well, would you or did you? No, of course not. I haven't done anything. I don't know what to do, right? So most people want to help. Most people don't know how to help. And if they want to, but they don't know how, then they just go, never mind. And then we ask people to reflect on how that feels. And they say things like, I just felt so bad for the mom. I didn't know what to do. I thought about them all day long. I got back home after grabbing milk at Kroger. I thought about that mom. I thought about that kid. I was wondering how bad it was going to be when they got home. Or it triggered something in me and I felt like I was back in my own childhood. Or, the things, the emotions that these kind of events stir up are significant, sometimes very traumatic. And then we ask people, do you have the value of helping people who need help? And they say yes. And they give lots of examples. I will help somebody who's homeless and needs a blanket. I will help somebody who is in cardiac arrest. I'm CPR certified. I will help a kid who is, struggling with homework. We all have this desire to help, but it's difficult for us to help in something that we view as private. Oh, that's a them thing. That's that mom. I can't interfere with that. Parenting is so private. Like, I don't know what they think is normal. I don't, they seem like they have it kind of got it going on. We kind of set parenting struggles aside as something that is none of our business. Okay, and I'm here to say, I view that as none of my business. I think absolutely that, parents are and should have the autonomy to raise their children as they wish. However, we have talked to a lot of adults who were abused as children, neglected as children, struggled as children, and they say really loud and clear, if only somebody would have said something or given me any indication that the way my mom treated me at the grocery store that one time was not okay, or gave her some support to handle a tricky situation, that would have helped so much. It would have helped me understand a stressful moment. It would have helped my mom, and it would have meant so much for my family. So at Support Over Silence, we try to walk this balance between, of course, parents being autonomous, parents being the best parents they can be, and also at times providing support. Okay, so what does that look like? The first thing that looks like is that we need to notice what's going on in our environment. So when we're at the store, when we're out and about, when we're in public, we need to be noticers. And I have to tell you, we're not really noticers. I can walk down a busy street. I could walk through a college campus. I could walk through Walmart or Target or the airport, and people don't notice. They're on their phones. We are on our phones. We're rushing, and we have this interesting culture now that has disconnected us from people in our environment. We're disconnected from the person even who's handing us coffee, who is, handling our luggage. We have these barriers that we've created that keep us from connecting with people. And so we operate in this bubble, in this sphere of, disconnection sometimes. And so noticing is the first part. We notice. And what are we noticing? We are noticing when maybe a parent needs an extra set of hands because they're, carrying too many things. Like I was at the airport recently, and there was a mom in front of me. And of course, as I've said before on this podcast and elsewhere, I'm like a huge noticer. I'm always like on the lookout specifically for parents who are struggling. I kid you not. I carry things in my bag. I'm like an old grandmother now, which I love. Anyway, so a woman was in front of me, and she had kids and a stroller. And I just said to her, like, hey, do you need some hands? She was like, oh my gosh, yes. If you could just kick that wheel out, then I could collapse the stroller and put it, but the wheel, whatever. So I bent down and I disengaged the wheel. She was able to collapse the stroller, put it on the belt. Ta-da. And then we saw her in the restroom later on down the terminal, and she says to her daughter, there's our best friend. And I didn't think they were talking to me, and I turned, and they were both smiling at me like I was their best friend, which is crazy because all I did was help her put her stroller on the belt. But to her, that was really meaningful. I also saw her on the airplane. She was on my flight, and she was just like, I was her ally. I was a buddy. I was, if anything else, just a little tiny point of connection, somebody that had at least had her back and allowed her to be who she needed to be in that moment. So there is value in being a public servant in that way. And when you say, yeah, I value that. I see myself as someone who can help. And now that you've given me the skills, I can do that. But it's not always easy. It's not. There are times where I'm in public and I see things, I'm like, oh, I have a hard time making sense of it myself. And here's what I try to think about. When you come across something in your environment that doesn't go well, isn't going well, makes you feel unsettled, you have two choices, okay? You can hightail it out of there. You can be like, dude, I'm turning around 180, I'm leaving the grocery store. Or you can walk toward it. You can walk toward the struggle. And it's interesting to think about that because neither is going to feel good. Like leaving the situation, going home, like wondering, could I have done something? Could I have helped them? Could I have made it easier for the mom? Like you're going to wonder about that. And then if you step forward, oh my gosh, Also, could I make it worse? What if they don't like me? What if they tell me to get away? What if? Okay. So we're often in these spaces in life where we've got two choices, neither of which are good choices, both of which feel a little crummy. So, how do we make decisions in light of choices that are crummy? I'd like to suggest that the way we make that choice is to choose the option that most closely aligns with our values. So if we value helping, we value building people up, we value creating community and organizations that are family forward and person focused and connection based and compassion forward, all those things, then we will step forward. We will step toward the struggle and then find a way to show support instead of judgment and do that with compassion. Is it always easy? No, of course not. I'm not asking you to do something that's easy. I'm asking you to think about ways that you, in all of the ways that you are and all of the who's that you are and all the skills that you have, can step forward and help a mom, a dad, a caregiver, a grandmother, a kid, anyone else who is experiencing a moment of need.